So if everything's good, you see online webinar, data-driven recruitment, how to get more inflow for your vacancy, because that's why we're here. At the right, you can see so the chat, so you can ask questions during the webinar. We would love to hear some feedback from you guys as well, because now I'm talking to my screen, and of course you're all sitting and listening. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask them in the chat. And because we want to make it a bit more interactive, Mark will also launch some polls during the webinar, so feel free to answer them.
If I can just stress, please, please, please ask questions, because that's why I'm here. And if nothing else, I don't have anything else to do. So please ask questions so we can make this very interactive.
Yes. All right. So first of all, what is Simple? Simple has built a technology, a software, so that every recruiter can set up their own Facebook and Instagram recruitment campaign very easily. If you stay till the end, we're going to share a free trial for it, which is really nice to get to know our software. But we are known for qualified candidates. We target qualified candidates easily on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks, Mark.
Hence the name Simple.
Yeah, I'm a bit nervous in the beginning, but it will go well. It will go better during the presentation. All right. So what is the flow of today? First of all, I'm going to explain you what data-driven recruitment is, why you should incorporate it in your recruitment strategy, and how you have to do it. So first of all, why data-driven recruitment? You want to understand every action that a person takes to get to your vacancy. So they see an ad on Facebook and Instagram or LinkedIn, or they see a vacancy on a job board, they click on it, they land on your vacancy on your website, and you want to measure every data point because you want to optimize also every step that they take. If you see that people won't land on your vacancy page, then something is wrong with your advertisement. But also, if you see that lots of people land on your vacancy page, but they don't apply, then maybe something is wrong with your vacancy. And these are all the things why data-driven recruitment is that important. All right. I just want to show you, we analyze lots of data points per month, 11 million, of course, not me by myself. We have an algorithm for it and lots of software working at the back end of all the campaigns. But we filled in 82% of our vacancies. So we ensured that people got to hire in the companies that we work for. These are some of them. We work for startups, but also multinationals in the whole of Europe. All right. So you want to have a better insight on your recruitment funnel. What is a recruitment funnel? It's actually a visualization of all the steps that a candidate takes. First of all, you want to attract them. Before they come on your vacancy, you have to attract them with a recruitment ad on Facebook or Instagram, for example. Then they land on your vacancy page. Of course, they read it through. And then, well, let's hope they apply for it. Then you have an application. And then, of course, you have the selection procedure. And then you got to, hopefully you hire a candidate. So this is a visualization of all the recruitment funnel. And why is this so important? Because, like I already said, you want to know why people don't go to the next step. You want to know where you have to optimize. Okay. I hope everything's clear. If not, you can always ask questions.
Yes, please. Have I said that before, that people have to ask questions?
Please ask questions, because otherwise I'm going to hear it the whole day.
I'm going to continue all day, right? Why has nobody asked me any questions? So please, people, ask questions.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to show you a real example. to make it more to make it more easy to understand. So we had one client, Duracell, and we generated 200,000 impressions in the attract phase with recruitment ads on Facebook and Instagram. We had 2,000 visitors, 80 applications, and 1 hire. Now, if you know this, you can also allocate your budget to it. So if you know that you had like €1,000 media cost, and just to make sure, I talk about media cost and not the time you spend on it, because of course that also has a cost on it. But this is €1,000 media cost for 200,000 impressions. Then you know that one visitor costs €0.50, and then one application is €12.50. And of course, you got to hire for €1,000 media budget.
Stephanie, hold, stop the presses. We have our first question of the day. Anna Grazia, or Anna Grazia, I think Grazia, asks what kind of position this job at Duracell. I think she's probably asking about the job of Duracell, what this position was. And she's from Spain, so welcome Spain.
It was a technician. I think it was...
It was in a factory. It was a factory technician.
Factory technician. Yeah. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So also the cost per application will, of course, depend on how good your advertisement is, in which region you're searching for, what the job function is. These are all factors that will reduce or minimize your cost.
Yeah. And to be honest, Anna Garcia, hello everybody, we've now kept, as you can see, it's no coincidence that the number is 1,000, right? So we've, when some of the examples we've given here, directionally, the numbers are right, but it's of course not the exact number, kind of also to make it easier to make the explanation work a bit. But directionally, that's kind of the money we spend on a campaign.
Yeah. I also want to point out that if you do, for example, a marketing function in Antwerp for a company, let's say Coca-Cola, if you want to do the same campaign in another region, then you will see that costs will be different. So it's always good to test everything you do, to measure everything, so you can at the end know how much an application or how much a hire will cost you. So it's really important to collect all the data points so you know what it costs. All right. So now you've collected all the numbers, you can have a further look at the recruitment funnel, which you see on the slide here. So if you see that there aren't any visitors on your vacancy, then you have to adjust your ad in the attract phase. For example, if you see that there's only 1% of visitors of all the people you showed your ad to in the attract phase, then of course you have to optimize your ad. Maybe the picture isn't really attractive, or you have to optimize your audience. Maybe you're speaking to the wrong audience. So there you can adjust your attract phase. But if you see that there are lots of visitors, but they don't apply, then maybe there's something wrong between your vacancy and your advertisement. So you have to adjust something over there.
Between your vacancy and your application.
Between your vacancy and your application, but also if you say something on your vacancy and if it's not told in your attract phase, then maybe, people click on it, but then they see,
Stephanie,
no, it's not
I happily admit my mistake in trying to correct you there. Apologies.
No worries. So it's important to have data in every step of the funnel so you can optimize the right way. Now, how do you collect all these data points? There are several tools, and all the tools that I show here are for free. So, of course, you have your website, you have the applications, and then you have all the sourcing channels or the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, VDIB. VDIB is a Belgian platform. It's actually a job board where you can post your vacancies on. And then you have to link everything. And that you do with Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. What is Google Analytics? Google Analytics is actually a piece of code that you install on your website, so you can measure every data point that a visitor does on your website. It measures the amount of visitors, but also how long are they on your website, which steps do they take. Everything is measured in Google Analytics. And of course, everything is GDPR approved, but you have to mention it in your privacy policy. So all these websites, well, if they're good websites, they use these tools to measure every data point. All right. Now, okay, I'm not going into detail about the GDPR compliance and stuff, because it's really, really, well, boring. And also, it doesn't have to do something.
But important.
But it will take us a bit too far,
Yes,
and I want to talk about recruitment. Okay, so how do we capture the data of the applicants that apply? Old school, you have to send an email with your CV and maybe a motivation letter, and then recruiters capture everything in an Excel sheet. But then you only measure one data point, and that is the amount of applications, which of course is not enough to do data-driven recruitment and to optimize your campaigns. So it can be more interactive. What we do, here you see an ad of assistant manager in Antwerp. If they click on the ad, they come to the vacancy page, which we rewrite always for mobile, because 80% of the people apply on mobile. And then if they read the vacancy, they can click on the button, I apply, and then they come to an interactive type form, which is an online chat where we can ask questions about the applicant, so the company can screen the candidates really easily through the answers of the online chat of the type form that they filled in. It says something about your company. It's innovative. It's not the classical way of working. And of course, here we can also measure, like, if they fill in the first question, the second, we can measure everything. All right. Now, we have to measure also when an application is done. So what we did is we made a page on our website, which says, thank you for your application. If they filled in the chatbot, if they filled in the type form, then they come to this page. And then we know we sent this data to Google Analytics, and then we know, okay, an application is done. So Google Analytics is really the center of everything to measure every step that a visitor takes on your website.
If I can just add to that, maybe, Steph, I think it's very important. Well, first of all, it's free. Second of all, it's quite powerful, Google Analytics. And the quicker you install these things onto your website, the more data you will start gathering. So my point being, even if today you're saying, look, I'm only going to start recruiting in September or October, there's a lot of benefit in already installing Google Analytics on your website now to start tracking data, to start seeing what's happening on your vacancy pages, because the more data you start capturing, the more data you have to start building your campaign once you're going live.
Yeah.
So there's a few things I think we really want to make sure you take out of today's webinar. And one of them is, if you're serious about data-driven recruitment, start working with Google Analytics, install it on your website, and you can get going from there.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So I already told you that you have to optimize at the right step of the funnel. Now, how we measure this, you have a word for it. It's called conversion rate. It's a marketing term. And it's actually like, it's a rate that you give to it. So if you have all the visitors on your vacancy and you divide the applications with the visitors on your vacancy, you multiply it by 100, then you come to a percentage, a ratio. For example, if you have 1,250 people that viewed your vacancy and you have 50 applications, then you have a conversion rate of 4%. This 4% is really good, is really high. If it's 1%, then maybe you should adjust your vacancy page a bit, or your ad. I just want to point out as well that the 4% is really good, but if the quality of the application isn't good, then you of course also have to optimize. for it. So this is a ratio which you can use to see if the conversion rate on your website is really good or really bad. All right. The attract phase, you want to know where they come from. And in the attract phase, we have 4 different categories for the different channels that you can use. First of all, you have the paid traffic. The paid traffic is, of course, campaigns where you put money for. So these are the campaigns like advertising platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, which we use a lot. We love it because we get lots of applications from it. And of course, these are all passive candidates because they're scrolling on their mobile and they see the advertisement and then they apply. They're really motivated and they're passive candidates. Then you have social. For example, if a visitor sees a post on your Facebook page or on your LinkedIn page, then it's called social traffic. Then you have organic traffic. For example, if someone searches for a vacancy account manager, then it's called organic traffic. So it's not paid. The only paid channel is paid, of course, and social, organic, and direct is not paid. The direct channel is when they go directly to your vacancy page. So if they really say the URL of your vacancy page of your website. Okay. This is, of course, important if you want to have a strong brand. Okay.
Maybe just to interact this a little bit, I'm just going to launch a poll.
Okay.
But the question is, how many have you have actually already published a paid recruitment campaign on Facebook? Just to have an understanding of what the kind of readiness and knowledge is about this. So I just launched a poll. It's on the right-hand side of your screen. You should be able to kind of vote there now. Just show the results. Okay, interesting. So we have about, so it's almost 50-50. Well, we're almost getting to 50-50, but about 60% have not yet published a Facebook campaign or a paid campaign, and 40% have already. Okay, good to know.
Cool. Yeah, good to know. Okay, so how do you know where your traffic comes from? Therefore, we have UTM parameters. If you have a link, then you see the question mark here, and then you have like all these tags, all these parameters, the source, medium, campaign, so you know from which campaign the traffic comes and from which source. You have lots of parameters. I've given here 5 common parameters, which most of the marketing people will use. And then, so you can easily see if they come from Facebook, is it free media, from which campaign, was it with a video or a picture, what was the content of it, and some more things that you can, well, you have to, first of all, you have to build the link for every channel separately, for every ad. And then if they click on the ad, the visitor, then it will be captured through the Facebook pixel and through Google Analytics in a dashboard of Ads Manager, but also in Google Analytics. All right. So you can have several parameters. There aren't strict rules for it, but of course, make sure you have a kind of structure in your company of it, so everyone knows what every parameter stands for, and also the things that you put after the parameters. I hope this is clear, because I know this is a bit technical and a lot of information. If not.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to hammer again on the Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a very powerful tool, which I think Steph will show you in a minute. You'll be able to analyze where people are coming from, how long are they staying, etc., etc. But you also need to pre-work to that. So if you publish a campaign on Facebook, take that as an example. If you don't give these parameters to Facebook, so they can link it to the visitor, obviously Google Analytics will be useless. Right? Because people will just land onto your website, but Google Analytics will not be able to identify where they are coming from. So you need to do your homework and your pre-work when setting up your campaign to make sure you give the right parameters, so Google Analytics can do the analysis.
Yeah, true. Here you see a print screen of Google Analytics, which really shows you all the visitors and then the different source and medium, the different channels. And you can see that most of them, 65%, come from paid traffic, which is really these are facts. I mean, this is real data. We didn't invent them. So we have lots of candidates coming from our paid channels. All right. I don't know if we don't have a poll, I think, of who did install the Google Analytics already.
No, Google. We have the Facebook Pixel, but that's a new poll. So we haven't yet done that.
Okay. No worries. All right. Now, for the people who already using parameters for their URLs, to build their URLs, it is really difficult to take all the parameters with the URL once they surf on your website through the different pages. So if you need help by that, we've written a sort of JavaScript sort of code where you can easily install it to your website, and then the UTM parameters will definitely be there once they surf on your website. Okay. All right. So earlier I talked about the conversion rate for on your vacancy page. Well, thanks to the UTM parameters, you can also measure the conversion rate for each channel. For example, here you see Facebook, Instagram, and Indeed, and you see that the conversion rate of Facebook is really high because you have more applications compared to the visitors. Indeed, we only had 2 applications for 400 visitors, which was the same visitor amount as Facebook, but there were less applications. This is really interesting because if you know that the conversion rate on Facebook, for example, is high, then you can allocate your budget to Facebook and maybe reduce the budget on Indeed for it. Okay. So here you see the conversion rate per channel, but of course you can go a bit further and you can also measure the conversion rate for each campaign or for each ad for each. So you can measure the conversion rate of everything, which we do at Simple. That's why we measure 11 million data points per month. All right. Sometimes we know that the inflow is most of the time an issue with recruiting, and we've written a white paper on how to recruit on Facebook and Instagram. Mark will share you a link.
Yeah.
Next week we're doing another webinar on data-driven recruitment, and if you invite some of your friends or colleagues who are also working in HR or interested in HR. And if they register for a webinar, then you'll receive our white paper about Facebook and Instagram, recruiting on Facebook and Instagram. So if all goes well, Mark will send you
working
the link.
on it now.
All right, cool. The link in the chat. It's really, really useful if you don't know anything about Facebook and Instagram. There are different steps, different checklists in this white paper, so you can read it through and take it step by step. All right. Now, I hope I already convinced you a bit about why you should recruit on Facebook and Instagram, because the active job seekers, which is only 20%, they are looking on job boards. They are looking at Google. They have an intent. They really search for a vacancy. But 80% isn't really actively looking for a job. And there you have to convince them with your advertisement on Facebook and Instagram, because on average, a person scrolls 160 meters a day on their mobile.
160.
160. What did I say?
160.
No.
Which
100.
is not really a lot of meters.
160 meters. That's really a lot. So you want to convince them. You want that they stop there to apply for your job. All right. Now, I know most of the recruiters probably think that why are you using Facebook and Instagram? Because everyone is also on LinkedIn. True, they are on LinkedIn and you can search them on LinkedIn, but you can't really attract the passive candidates. And the passive candidates, the advantage of it is that they are really motivated because they see the vacancy, they see the brand, they see where they're gonna work, and then they click on your vacancy page. So the passive candidates are, more interesting, I would say, to fill in your vacancy. So you have to reach them there, and it's not enough to just post it on your Facebook wall or your LinkedIn profile. You really have to make paid recruitment campaigns so you can target the right person. All right. What is important for data-driven recruitment are some metrics that you need to measure, that you need to keep in mind with every campaign you do on every channel, so you can allocate your budget on the right way. The first one is reach. These are the amount of users that you reach with your advertisements. The impressions is the amount of times that your advertisement is shown to your audience. And it's really important to know the difference, because if you divide the impressions through the reach, then you have the frequency, and you don't want to spam all the people with the same advertisement again and again and again and again. So here you have a visual on the right side of the screen. You see that in the left side, the advertisement is displayed just once at 10 people and displayed twice at 5 people. So you have in total 20 impressions, but only 15 people that you actually reach. All right. Then some other important metrics. I already told you about conversion rate. It's also important to know the click-through rate on Facebook and Instagram itself. If you divide the clicks by impressions, then you get the click-through rate. For example, if you have 10 clicks and 1,000 impressions, then you have a click-through rate of 1%. And if you know that, then you can also allocate the costs. Then you can also know the cost per click for it. So here, for example, for 10 clicks, we paid €4, so it's 40 cents per click. And hopefully there will be also an application of those 10 clicks. All right. So Google Analytics, I think we already mentioned it a lot, but it's really important that you install it to see where the problems are, where the issues are in your recruitment funnel, so you can see them, you can optimize them, and make sure that your budget is divided on a good way. We at Simple are a big fan of A/B testing. What is A/B testing? It's an experiment where you test only one thing of the ads to see which works best. So for example, here you see an advertisement for account manager for Arval, which was a company we worked for. You see the copy, you see the visual, the function type, and the call to action. And everything is the same, but only the visual is different. So if you put these two live, then you can see, okay, what is the click-through rate? What is the cost? What is the conversion rate? What is the cost per application? And then you can see which one is the winner and which one you can put more money on. All right. You can go a bit further by it. We test everything. So we test the copy, we test the visuals, we test the call to action. We also test on the vacancy itself, the pictures. Do we want to include a video or not? These are all things that you can A/B test, but with A/B testing, it's important that you only test one thing at a time, because otherwise you're never gonna know why an ad is better than another one. Okay, let's make it a bit more interactive now. Here you see two different ads of Neuhaus. We were searching for a maintenance supervisor, and we tested the function titles. So the copy is the same, the visual is the same, the call to action is the same, but on the left side we tested maintenance supervisor, and on the right side we tested team leader maintenance. I just want to know, which one do you think worked best?
A poll has been published again. So on the right-hand side, you can now vote which ad do you think was most successful in finding the right people. So you can choose either left or right. Of course, it's the left depending on which side of the screen you are. But if you're facing the screen, it's your left that you should choose. I'm just going to check if there's any results. And again, okay, so it's the hat on the right is currently winning. 63% think that the hat on the right has won the A/B test. Steph,
Okay. And that's true, because if you see, we had only 10 applications on the left picture and 41 on the right. And like you can also see, the cost per application was almost 6 double the
five-ish.
Yeah,
Five-ish.
So with A/B testing, it's really important. If you have different function types, if you have different pictures, just put them live to see what works best.
And I mean, and just maybe also to explain, this spread of 5 times an application cost versus another, this is not uncommon, right? There's, first of all, it's not uncommon, so that's hence the importance of testing, right? Because there's quite a bit of spread between them. But also, if we would run this campaign 3 months later again, we would probably run some other tests also. So there's no kind of one solution fits all. If you're, just give an example, if you're running an ad in November, you're competing against all Black Friday deals, right? It's a totally different environment on Facebook. So it might sound strange, but these things have an impact on the campaign you're running. So it's really important to make testing a continued part of your process whenever you put applications live.
Definitely.
Do you think I've convinced them already, Steph, or not?
I hope so.
I hope so. Because again, may I judge or may I complain about the lack of questions, guys? I'm just here standing, right? Not being able to interact with you. So please ask me some questions.
All right, we're going to do another poll. So here you see an advertisement for a sales consultant, which we did for Legerstock. Legerstock is a company in Belgium. So you can see that the picture is slightly different. They have like these mobile phones, before their mouths, but they're wearing a face mask, which is now, unfortunately, the world where we're living in. So these are the 2 pictures that we tested. The copy was the same, the function was the same, call to action was the same. Which one do you think that had the most applications?
All right, so the poll has been published, so please don't hesitate to vote. And it looks like, I'm just going to give it 1 more second to get some votes come out. Okay, so interesting audience. 60% think that the one on the left is winning.
Okay. And that is actually true. There is maybe the audience already did the test.
Exactly. They know more than we do.
But actually, we thought here at the office internally with our colleagues that the one on the right was a bit more fun, a bit more playful. But of course, our opinion doesn't count. We just put things live and see the results, see the data to see which one is the best working one. So the left one had 22 applications for €21 and the right one 12 with €33, which is, of course, a difference. Okay, here you have an A/B test of a video because we only talked about pictures, but of course you can also make a video with different pictures of your team where you can also test it on Instagram stories or Facebook feed, whatever you want. Here it is a bit more difficult to say like why it worked best because there are lots of images in it. But of course, if we publish a video, we always publish a couple of them so we know which one works best. We just don't know why exactly. Right.
That's way big. That's really important. Sorry, I was laughing. That's really important. Something you will not know why, but you just knows what works best. That might mean that you can't really explain it to your customer, maybe sometimes, or to your boss. That doesn't really matter. It's the result that counts. And that's the beauty of data-driven recruitment, is that you have numbers, you have data, you are able to show what will work better and what's the best use of your money to reach candidates.
Exactly. Two things to pay attention to. If you do A/B testing, I already told you, but it's important to only test one thing, because if you test several things, you're never going to know which one worked best, and you're going to take the wrong conclusion. Second one, make sure that everything is set up correctly, that you use the right parameters with all the different ads you run, so you can measure, of course, which version of your A/B test has worked the best. Okay, so I talked a lot about data, and of course you have different tools. You have Google Analytics, but you also have Facebook Ads Manager, and maybe also some job boards as well. And you want to capture every single data point really easily, so you can have a quick look on how your vacancy is performing. We use Google Data Studio. Google Data Studio is also a free platform where you can customize and build your own dashboard. This is, for example, a dashboard that we send to all of our customers, so they can easily see like how many visits did the job description have, how much applications, how much phone calls, etc. And you can also see like where they're coming from which channel, from which source. Now, I also want to talk about the return on ad spend, because of course you pay for advertisements on Indeed, but also on Facebook and Instagram, and you want to know the return on the media budgets that you spent. So, for example, you see here that we spent 1,500 euros on Facebook and on Indeed. We had more impressions on Facebook. We had also more clicks. The applications were more on Indeed, but the qualified applications were more on Facebook. So this is really important, that you also measure the quality of the applications, because of course you can have lots of applications, but if no one of those persons are qualified for the job, then you're useless with the amount of applications. All right, so you can compare the click-through, you can compare the conversion rate, you can compare the conversion qualified rate. You can measure everything, and then also see how much does a click cost. You see that on Facebook it was a bit cheaper. You can measure the cost per application, because Indeed had more applications. The cost was a bit less than Facebook, but the cost per qualified application was less for Facebook than for Indeed. Okay, now, like I already told you, at Simple, we developed a software because Ads Manager, Facebook and Instagram, where you have to publish your recruitment campaign, is really difficult. If you're not a marketeer, then it's really a hassle. There's lots of data, there's lots of buttons you have to choose from. But we at Simple, we build a software where you can easily set up a recruitment campaign yourself on Facebook and Instagram without zero marketing know-how. I don't know, Mark, if you can maybe show our software.
Quickly show you, so at least I have something to do now. Makes me feel useful. Let me go here and share my screen. So I'm just gonna use this for 2 minutes now.
Maybe put on your camera first, or yes. Is it not important that they see
that's
you?
It. Okay, yeah, maybe it's
a bit more
it's
personal.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Let me put on my camera so you can see me right in all my glory.
Now all the questions can come.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Finally, we will know what was missing for you to ask questions. Okay, guys, just wanted to show you here. This is, for instance, our tool to help you build your first ad, right? Where you can easily just adapt the text here on the left. It will automatically show also in the ad how that looks. You can upload an image. I'm going to go choose a random image here on my desktop. You can upload a picture, a logo. Just gonna look for a logo here. Again, taking a random logo, right? And then first of all, our tool will start creating the ad in a couple of seconds. So you can see how it looks like. We put a banner on there, also with the title of your vacancy. And then once you register, and I'll quickly go there, we also guide you. That's important, that the whole software really takes you by the hand, explains to you what steps you have to do, what is finished, how you can start pushing your advertising. You can click here, for instance, on targeting. You can choose the function, and then our software will start looking at similar functions, similar campaigns to make sure that we target the right audience, which is not something you can do if you go straight to the back office of Facebook. So you can actually use our data or our know-how from our algorithm to do so. And like I said, it's very easy. Everything will be explained here. You need zero marketing know-how to do that. And even better, we'll give it 2 weeks for free, right? I'm going to share that in a link now. I'll stop sharing here, Steph.
Yeah.
So you can finalize the presentation.
Yes.
And then I'll just paste the link here on the right-hand column. So I go there. This is just a bit of an overview here, what our software does. As we mentioned before, it will allow you to track everything. You don't need to spend time on creating UTM codes or all the things we explained till now. Mm-hmm. The only thing you need to do is just, as I've shown you on the software, put everything live, and our software will take care of A/B testing, of optimizing the budget, of turning off the right and wrong ads without any energy or resources taken from your end. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That was my little shameless plug of self-promotion, and also give me a bit of value added, and I have a feeling I actually participated in this webinar because there were no questions. No hard feelings, guys. All right, so I'm going to turn off my camera again. Steph, is that okay? All right.
That's okay. All right, so this was our webinar about data-driven recruitment. I just want to ask one more time, if you have any questions, please, this is the moment. This is your moment of glory.
Well, Samir just put in the chat that he's saving his questions for later.
Okay.
So there you go. And we have more now, Samir, indeed, so now. Question from Flores. Do you recommend installing the Facebook conversion API? Facebook says it will improve performance and measurement of ad campaigns. Or is a Facebook pixel enough? That's a good question. Maybe. Do you want to give the background here, Steph? Or
well, actually, what we do is we use server-side tagging.
So can I let me just introduce, because I'm not sure if everybody's going to be aware. I'll turn on my camera.
Yeah.
And then you can explain what we do, Steph.
Yeah.
But as some of you might have heard, Apple has changed their privacy settings of iOS 14.6. 14.5, right? Which basically means it makes it more difficult to actually track people coming onto your website, from where they are coming from, how long are they staying, etc., etc., etc. Right? Mm-hmm. This is obviously a big issue for Facebook, to track conversions, to track what's happening. Some of the data we've shown you is indeed not that easy to track. Mm-hmm. And one of the examples, or sorry, one of the solutions that Facebook is giving is to install a Facebook conversion API, which we have done.
Yeah.
And maybe good, Steph. And we realize this is already a bit advanced for some of the audience, so we'll keep it short. Mm-hmm. But it's a good question.
Yeah. So what we did is we installed the conversion API on Facebook itself, but we saw that the data wasn't correct. So that's why we digged a bit deeper into it. And what we did is we installed server-side tagging in Google Tag Manager to really measure on the server itself and not on the website. So it's a bit technical. I don't want to go into detail. And
but if you Google server-side tagging, There's a lot of information on there. It's a lot more complicated than just installing Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager onto your website, because you basically have to define events. You also have to decide on which events you're gonna want to change. We are actually planning on doing a workshop on this.
Yeah.
So Flores, please keep our socials or track our socials, because I think in the next 2 to 3 weeks we are going to give specifically a workshop on how to deal with that. Okay, Marija Poplizova. I'm sorry, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Maria. The question is, do you have any advice for additional KPIs to track for having a vacancy open for a longer period of time when it comes to hiring more people for the same position? Yeah, for 2, 3, 4 months. Good question. And we also have some data on there.
Yeah.
Do you want to, shall I? All right, I'll show you the question.
Yeah, because it was a long question. Huh? Do you have any?
But I think the one you really need to track is frequency, right? Because frequency of your ad, as Stephanie explained, is how many times have people on average seen your ad. The moment we get to a frequency 2.5, 3, right? I'm looking at Stephanie because she's the expert. But the moment we see that kind of frequency, that's when we know we actually have to start changing the visual, doing some new A/B testing.
Changing the audience as well.
Yeah.
Because also, if you're running an ad like for this long, retargeting is also really important. It can be helpful. So you set up an ad and you show it to all the visitors that already came to your vacancy, and you retarget them with a different ad. So hopefully they will apply then, because sometimes they're scrolling on Facebook, they click on the ad, they go to the vacancy page and they think, I'm not gonna apply now, I'm busy or what else. So then it's important that you keep touch points, reminders on Facebook and Instagram, so they see your vacancy again.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good question from Samir on A/B testing. So basically the question from Samir is that when you do A/B testing, how do you know that you can actually trust the data in the sense that, because of course there's a lot of external parameters that you can't control, like the Black Friday environment I mentioned. You want to answer this?
Yeah, I think all the data in Ads Manager is correct if you install the Facebook pixel correctly on your website, because you don't want to measure one event or one application 2 times. So that's an important one. You will see that the data in Facebook Ads Manager will be a bit different of the data in Google Analytics, but this all has to do with like the firing, the timing of the firing of the pixel of Facebook. So yeah, that's why we use server-side tagging for it, because it's more accurate.
I think also one of the questions is, for instance, he talks about the Black Friday, the age of the applicants. So I mean, there's going to be some stuff you can't control and you can't measure, right? So what you need to do is the things you can measure: what audience, what is the time you're showing, is to kind of isolate as many parameters as you can. And then basically you just have to trust the gods, right? That you've kind of taken into account as much as you can. But on the other hand, I mean, Black Friday is a once in a year event, right? Once you have a lot of parameters you're tracking, because Stephanie mentioned audience, but it's also the time of day. Is it more weekend versus weekdays? These kind of parameters. Try to isolate as much as you can on A/B testing. And I mean, I'm not going to advertise the software anymore, but once you put an ad live through our software, we make 24 versions of that, which we then start A/B testing one against the other. Point being, 24 is already quite a lot in order to be able to track that. You could make 96, right? But we found that 24 is a good number where you kind of combine enough different parameters to start taking some learnings out of that. Okay. There was a bunch of questions coming in and now it's dried up a bit. So Samir is still making an effort. Okay, just to thank you. I want to thank you, Stephanie, with your brilliant answer. All right, guys. We're just going to give 10 more seconds to see if any other questions pop up. In the meantime, I'm just going to publish 2 more polls. One is to kind of know whether this was a useful webinar. And please be honest. because we are trying to make this as interactive as possible. And the second poll will be, so thank you, 100% of people saying yes. Stop voting now. Okay. I will turn off the poll. And then I'm just going to publish one more poll on what you would like to hear or see on the next webinar. We've put some subjects there we are thinking about. But please feel free. Also in the chat, if you want to add some subjects in the chat, because like I said, we love to share the experience we have and the data we have with as many people as possible.
And also keep an eye over on our socials, on our LinkedIn profile and Facebook profile, because we normally do one webinar a week, but we also write white papers about this topic. We make checklists of it. So you can find everything over there.
I just maybe one last question from Adelina.
Yeah.
She's asking whether you have experience. We have experience in the EU and in the software. And yes, Adelina. So basically, we've already been our campaigns are currently running across Europe, 7 or 8 countries outside of Belgium already. Some of the examples you've seen were coming from that. And also in the software, we have quite a bit of startups, scale-ups using our software to help them recruit. All right. I'm just curious to see what the results are of the poll on the subjects. Let's have a look there.
Targeting.
Okay, targeting on Facebook and Instagram. Yes, that's a good one.
We've done one, but it's in Flemish.
It's in Flemish.
So we have to redo it again.
We'll redo it again in English, but it's a good one actually, because there's quite some learnings there. All right, guys.
Okay.
I'll let Stephanie. I'll close down my camera and I will shut up so Stephanie can take the final words.
All right. If you have any more questions in a couple of weeks, you can always send us an email or send us a message on LinkedIn. We're here to help you out with recruiting on Facebook and Instagram, and also with data-driven recruitment.